Napolitano, if Uber moves to D.C., he's a special counsel. Rosenstein must recuse, by Rick Wells for rickwells.us. Napolitano says that essentially if John Uber moves to Washington, D.C., he becomes a special counsel. And if he stays in Utah, he's a diversion. Rosenstein must recuse himself too. Without addressing the serious conflict of U.S. Attorney John Uber being an employee of those he is investigating and the potential impact that would have on the thoroughness and legitimacy of his investigation, Judge Andrew Napolitano says that he may in fact be fulfilling the role of a special counsel. Napolitano says the determinant factor is whether or not Uber remains in Utah or relocates to Washington, D.C., where the witness and targets are located. He says when Jeff Sessions said, "John Uber is my guy," he meant one of two things. He meant either that Uber is going to move to Washington, D.C., where he'll be assigned a half dozen federal prosecutors and a dozen or two FBI agents, and they'll convene a grand jury and start gathering evidence and presenting it to the grand jury and getting subpoenas to the grand jury, or he's going to do it remotely from Utah. Napolitano says if he does it in Washington, D.C., he is a de facto special counsel. He would be doing the same thing that a new special counsel would be doing. David Assman asks, in what way is he different? Why would you need a special counsel if this guy, John Uber, can do exactly the same thing? Napolitano points out that if Uber stays in Utah, he cannot summon a grand jury and he cannot get subpoena power from the grand jury because a grand jury in Utah cannot have jurisdiction over FBI agents and NSA agents and their records in Washington, D.C. He says it's a simple matter of moving to the swamp, at which point he becomes a special counsel, albeit one who still reports to one of the suspects and kingpin's swamp creature, Rod Rosenstein. Napolitano says that Sessions is playing word games on the public and on the Congress by appointing this fellow, who may be a great prosecutor, for all we know, from Utah because he can't do his work out there. Assman says that Goodlatte is convinced the deep state is the problem that is preventing and could likely continue to prevent the Justice Department from working as it should, and that is why he is insistent on an outsider leading the investigation, if there is one. Napolitano points out that Sessions must know that a grand jury in Utah is toothless with respect to acquiring evidence from FBI agents and the Justice Department in Washington, D.C. The grand jury has to sit where the documents and the witnesses are. Judge Napolitano points out that there are three issues being investigated: the abuse of FISA, the premature exoneration of Mrs. Clinton, and the premature exoneration of President and Mrs. Clinton in the Uranium One deal. There are also her associates and the members of the Obama regime, such as Susan Rice, Ben Rhodes, Jihadi J. Johnson, John Brennan, James Clapper, Samantha Power, John Kerry, and Obama himself, that Napolitano fails to include as possible targets that could easily be exposed with just a little digging below the surface. Yeah, so he doesn't want to name them. He says all of those documents and all of the witnesses are government employees in Washington, D.C., which cannot be reached by a grand jury or prosecutor in Utah. Napolitano explains how it can be done with Uber in his opinion, and it all starts with him moving to DC to conduct his work. But the fact that he reports to one of the suspects puts everything he does in question. There is no way anyone can be trusted to investigate their boss, regardless of where he lives. Is Napolitano trying to sell this guy as the second special counsel in order to quiet down the demand while leaving Rosenstein in control? That's a good question. Is Sessions serious? Or if Sessions is serious, he needs to not only move Uber to DC, but at a minimum demand that Rosenstein recuse himself from anything related to this investigation, just as Sessions did with the Russia hoax, as well as from any personal matters related to John Uber in the future. Now, I listened to some Q posts where they're saying that Uber is not going to go to Washington. He can have the investigation done in any state he wants. But now we're going back to the law. What Napolitano is saying is Uber doesn't have the authority to bring out the records unless he's in Washington. And the fact of the matter that if he goes to Washington to do it, there are a lot of, it's a sort of biased, it's Hillary biased in Washington, D.C. So I'm at a loss about this, but I'm sure Napolitano is stating the facts because the Q post says that Uber can go to any state he wants to get all this information. You cannot get it. Napolitano is saying, unless you are stationed in Washington, you have no authority to, and basically I would assume that the law is the law. I don't trust Napolitano, don't get me wrong. I'm not on Napolitano's side at all. I don't trust him. But what I'm saying is, the law is the law. So he says, if Uber stays in Utah, he can't summon a grand jury, and he cannot get subpoena power from the grand jury because a grand jury in Utah cannot have jurisdiction over FBI agents and NSA agents and their records in Washington, D.C. That's why I'm saying, what is the Q post saying? Because, Napolitano can lie all he wants, but the law is the law. And I don't think he's an idiot where he doesn't know the law. But Q is saying, Uber is good because he can open this investigation into any state. Yeah, but you don't have the subpoena power. So that's a fact. Unless Napolitano is lying about the law, he doesn't know what he's talking about. I doubt that. So this is what I'm saying. This is some sort of a distraction. Let's listen to Sessions here. I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me. When they're saying that he can go to any state. No, but he doesn't have jurisdiction to pull the documents and the witnesses there. I don't know. Is this going to play or what? I guess not. But we get the gist that Sessions is getting... let me try to flip back. Maybe we can get it on film here. It's not working. But we get the gist. If anything, I'll just put up the video for Sessions separately. It's not giving me a signal. But basically, I don't think Napolitano is lying about that. He can't lie about what the law is, can you? You see what I'm saying? So what is the Q post saying that Uber is a good idea? I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.